Ladies and gentlemen, you don't realize it yet, but your mind is building your future in every second you are alive. Every thought you allow, every word you speak, every belief you cling to, they are all bricks in the house you will one day live in. The question is, will that house be a sanctuary or a prison? If you understand this truth, you'll see why you cannot afford to be careless with what you feed your mind. You can't just wake up and let the day happen to you. You must take the wheel. You must set the tone. And that's why you must hear this every day. Not once, not when you feel like it, every day, until it becomes part of you. Because here's the harsh truth. The world is already programming you. The news, the conversations, the casual negativity, all of it shapes you without your consent. But when you choose to repeat something empowering, when you flood your mind with words that lift you higher, you are reclaiming the throne of your own mind. You are saying, I decide who I will become. The changes won't be dramatic at first. In fact, at the start, you'll hardly notice anything. But the small shifts, the slight rise in your energy, the clearer thinking, the way problems feel less like walls and more like puzzles, they will stack up. And then one day you will wake up and realize the person you always wanted to be is no longer a dream. It is you. But you must fight for it. Your old habits will try to drag you back. Your mind will whisper, what's the point? You'll never change. That's the test. And that's why you must hear these truths daily to drown out the old voice until it can no longer speak. Consistency is the secret no one wants to hear because it's not glamorous. It's not instant, but it's the one thing that works every time. Listen to this every day, not to be motivated, but to be transformed. Not to feel better for a moment, but to live better for a lifetime. Because life is not waiting for you to be ready. It is happening now. And so should you. Most people underestimate the quiet, unstoppable power of daily repetition. They think transformation happens in grand gestures, dramatic turning points, or bursts of inspiration that come once in a blue moon. But life doesn't change in giant leaps. It shifts in the small, almost invisible moments that stack up day after day. The truth is, you don't become who you want to be in a single decision. You become that person through 1,000 choices repeated consistently over time. What you do every day matters far more than what you do once in a while. Consider how the mind works. It's not a storage box you fill once and forget. It's a living, breathing garden. Every day you are planting seeds through your words, your thoughts, the images you watch, the conversations you have. The garden will grow regardless, but the outcome depends on what you allow to take root. A single day of planting good seeds won't change much, but 100 days, 1,000 days, that's when the transformation becomes undeniable. This is why watching or listening to something empowering every single day matters. It's not about hearing new information each time. It's about allowing the truths you already know to sink deeper and deeper into your subconscious until they are no longer ideas, but reflexes. Repetition reshapes the way you think without you even realizing it. What once felt forced becomes natural. What once required discipline becomes instinct. The brain is wired for patterns. It clings to what it encounters most often, whether that's good or bad. If you fill it daily with strength, clarity, and focus, it begins to default to those states instead of doubt and fear. Think of it like physical training. A single workout won't make you strong, but daily training over time transforms your body. In the same way, daily repetition is mental training. It sculpts the unseen muscles of resilience, patience, and focus. And here's where most people fail. They mistake simplicity for weakness. They think, how could watching something for a few minutes each day really change me? But simplicity is not weakness, it is purity. The most powerful forces in nature are simple. The steady rise of the sun, the rhythmic pull of the tides, the silent growth of a tree. None of these make noise. None of them rush. Yet they shape the world. Daily repetition works the same way. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, but over time it shapes you into someone unrecognizable to your former self. The first days you commit to it, you might feel no difference at all. Your mind may resist, trying to pull you back into old patterns. This is natural because your mind is comfortable with what it already knows, even if what it knows is destructive. But with every repeated exposure to empowering thoughts, the old beliefs lose their grip. They are replaced by something stronger, something steadier. It's important to understand that this process is not about hype or temporary motivation. Motivation fades quickly. Repetition builds permanence. You are not trying to light a fire that burns brightly for a moment and dies. You are building a furnace that can burn steadily for the rest of your life. And that kind of fire is only possible when you feed it daily. Think about the messages you hear every day from the world around you. Advertisements telling you you're not enough, social media comparing your life to someone else's, casual conversations filled with complaints and fear. Whether you notice it or not, these are repetitions too. They shape your mood, your perspective, your expectations. The question is not whether you are being programmed. The question is, who is doing the programming? If you aren't deliberate about it, the world will do it for you. Daily repetition is how you take that power back. It's how you override the noise with your own chosen frequency. By watching something every day that aligns with the person you want to become, you are rewriting your mental code. Over time, this daily habit builds a new default setting, a way of thinking and responding that naturally moves you toward your highest potential. And here's the beauty of it. The more you repeat these truths, the less you will have to fight for them. At first, you will have to consciously remind yourself, but eventually, the reminder becomes who you are. You stop needing the push because you have become the kind of person who naturally acts in alignment with your vision. That's when you'll understand the real magic of daily repetition. It's not about forcing change. It's about becoming the change so completely that it's no longer an effort. If you want to change your life, don't wait for a miracle or a grand moment of transformation. Choose something that speaks to your soul, something that strengthens you, and commit to experiencing it every day without fail. Not once a week, not when it's convenient, every day, because your life is built in days, and if you own the day, you own the future. Over time, the daily repetition will not only change the way you think, it will change who you are. And when that happens, the life you once dreamed of will no longer feel distant. It will feel inevitable. Your mind is always listening, not just when you're paying attention, not only when you're focused, but in every waking and sleeping moment, your mind is absorbing, processing, and storing information. Every word you hear, every thought you think, every image you see, even the ones you barely notice, all leave an imprint. The human mind is like fertile soil. It does not judge the seeds that fall into it. It will grow whatever you plant, whether it's a seed of strength, or a seed of fear, a seed of hope, or a seed of doubt. And because it's always listening, the question isn't whether you are influencing it, but how and with what. Every passing moment, you are in conversation with yourself, whether consciously or unconsciously. The tone of that conversation shapes your reality. If you constantly feed yourself with messages of limitation, criticism, or defeat, you are essentially programming your mind to expect those outcomes. But if you feed it with words of courage, focus, and possibility, you are programming it to seek and create a different kind of reality. The mind believes what it hears most often, and the most frequent voice it hears is your own. That's why you cannot afford to be careless with the content you consume or the language you use about yourself. Even casual phrases, "I'm terrible at this," "I'll never change," "I'm unlucky," are recorded by your mind and filed away as evidence of who you are. Over time, these phrases become unquestioned truths, not because they are accurate, but because they have been repeated so often that your mind accepts them as reality. Think about the people around you. You can change the narrative. You can replace the constant stream of self-criticism with messages that build, strengthen, and encourage. It doesn't happen overnight, but just as it has been trained to believe in your limitations, it can be trained to believe in your potential. This is where deliberate repetition becomes your greatest ally. If your mind is going to be listening anyway, why not give it something worth hearing? Why not fill it with ideas that elevate you, words that strengthen you, truths that move you toward the life you want? The more often it hears these messages, the more naturally it will accept them, until they are no longer affirmations you are trying to believe. They are simply the way you think. You've probably had the experience of having a song stuck in your head after hearing it a few times. You weren't trying to memorize it, yet it plays on a loop without effort. This is exactly how your mind works with repeated messages. It stores them, recalls them, and eventually plays them automatically. Imagine if the words stuck in your head were not random lyrics, but powerful truths about who you are and what you can achieve. Imagine the kind of decisions you'd make, the risks you'd take, the fears you'd silence, simply because the background music of your mind was telling you, you can, you will, you are capable. This works in reverse as well. If the messages you expose yourself to every day are full of doubt, anger, and scarcity, your mind will replay those without your permission. That's why so many people stay trapped in cycles they hate, because they've let the wrong voices speak too often. They've underestimated the influence of small, seemingly insignificant words. The mind is a mirror that reflects whatever it sees most often. If you surround yourself with negativity, that's the reflection you'll get. If you surround yourself with possibility, your reflection changes. But the choice is always yours. You cannot control every word or thought that enters your life, but you can decide which ones you will focus on, repeat, and give weight to. And so the challenge is simple but profound. Guard your input. Become intentional about the words you allow into your mental space. Speak to yourself as you would speak to someone you love deeply. Replace the reflex of criticism with the habit of encouragement. Even if it feels awkward or forced at first, remember, your mind is always listening, and it doesn't care if the belief feels true yet. It will take what you give it and build on it. Over time, the repetition will make it real. This is why it is not enough to occasionally fill your mind with something empowering. It must be daily. It must be consistent. Because the other voices, the noise of the world, the echoes of your past, are also speaking daily. To override them, you must be louder in persistence, not in volume. You must feed your mind with the kind of truth you want it to echo back to you for the rest of your life. And when you truly grasp that your mind is always listening, you begin to live differently. You become mindful not just of what you say, but of what you think, what you hear, and what you see. You begin to choose your mental diet as carefully as you choose your physical one. And in doing so, you step into the role you were always meant to play, not as the passive receiver of your life, but as the deliberate author of it. Small shifts create big results. It is one of the most overlooked truths in life because human beings are drawn to the idea of massive, dramatic change. Imagine that our transformation will come in one life-altering decision, one grand event, one sudden breakthrough. But life rarely works like that. Change, real change, is almost always the product of small, repeated adjustments, tiny, deliberate actions that seem insignificant in the moment, but over time create an unstoppable momentum. Consider a ship at sea. If you shift its course by even a single degree, that change feels irrelevant in the first hour. But give it enough distance, enough time, and that 1 degree adjustment takes the ship to a completely different destination. The same principle applies to your life. The choices you make today, the words you speak, the habits you keep, the thoughts you entertain, might not seem powerful in isolation. But repeated daily, they compound, they carve a new path, and one day you look up and realize you are in an entirely different place than you would have been had you not made those subtle shifts. This is why so many people fail to see progress. They expect transformation to be obvious and immediate. When they don't see instant results, they give up. They dismiss the small steps because they don't yet see the final picture. But if you want to build anything lasting, a skill, a mindset, a life, you must learn to respect the compound effect of small actions. If someone you trust constantly told you that you were incapable, you'd eventually start to believe it. Now realize this, for most people, that someone is themselves. The inner voice is the most influential voice, and it never stops speaking. The tragedy is that many people use it as a weapon against themselves instead of a tool for growth. But here's the incredible thing. Because your mind is always listening, you can choose to reprogram it at any time. Success is rarely a single event. It is the accumulation of choices that seemed too small to matter at the time. Think about the habits that define a person's health, relationships, or career. A single unhealthy meal won't destroy your body. A single missed workout won't erase your fitness. But over time, repeated neglect creates a noticeable decline. Conversely, a single act of kindness won't transform a relationship. A single day of focused work won't build an empire. But repeated daily, those small, consistent actions create something remarkable. Your mind operates in much the same way. A single thought might pass without consequence, but repeated thoughts, especially ones tied to emotion, begin to take root. They shape your beliefs, which shape your actions, which shape your life. That's why feeding your mind with empowering messages daily is so powerful. It may not feel transformative in the moment, but each exposure is a subtle shift in your internal compass, guiding you closer to the person you want to become. The danger is that small shifts can work against you just as easily as they can work for you. The wrong kind of repetition, negative self-talk, toxic influences, destructive habits also compounds. It takes you slowly but surely away from your goals until you find yourself in a place you never intended to be. This is why awareness is so critical. You must pay attention to the direction of your small shifts, because over time, they determine your entire destination. The beauty of this truth is that you don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You don't need to summon impossible discipline or achieve perfection. You only need to begin making small, intentional improvements today. Read a few pages of a book that expands your thinking. Spend 10 minutes moving your body. Speak one encouraging sentence to yourself. Replace one negative thought with a better one. These things may feel almost laughably simple, but simplicity is deceptive. In the realm of transformation, the simplest actions often have the most profound impact. What matters most is consistency. One small action performed daily will always outpower a massive action performed once. That's because the mind and body adapt to repetition. Each time you make a choice, you strengthen the neural pathways that support that behavior, making it easier to repeat. Over time, the action that once required effort becomes second nature, and when your good habits become automatic, your growth becomes inevitable. Imagine two people standing side by side, making slightly different choices every day. One wakes up 10 minutes earlier to meditate, while the other sleeps in. One chooses water over soda, while the other indulges without thought. One spends an extra half hour learning a new skill, while the other scrolls aimlessly through a screen. At the end of a week, the difference between them is barely noticeable. At the end of a year, the gap has widened. At the end of a decade, they are living entirely different lives. That is the quiet, relentless power of small shifts. The challenge is patience. In a world addicted to speed, people want the reward before they've earned it. They want to see the destination before they've traveled the road. But if you can learn to value the process, to fall in love with the act of improving by small degrees, you will outlast those who rush and quit. And eventually, you will be standing in a life that others will call lucky or miraculous, not realizing that it was built one small shift at a time. Ask yourself today, what is one small change I can make that moves me closer to where I want to be? Then do it. Not tomorrow, not when it feels right, today, and do it again tomorrow. Let each small shift become a brick in the foundation of the life you are building. Over time, these small shifts will create results so big that you will look back in wonder amazed at how such small beginnings could lead to such extraordinary change. The greatest danger to your growth is not failure, not rejection, not even the obstacles life throws in your path. The greatest danger is neglect, neglecting the mind, leaving it to run on autopilot and assuming it will naturally lead you to the life you want. It won't. If you do not take charge of your thinking, the world will. And the world does not care about your highest potential. It cares about your compliance, your consumption, your conformity. Without deliberate direction, your mind will default to the patterns it has absorbed from everything around you, most of which are not designed to make you stronger or freer. Mental neglect is silent. You don't feel it all at once. It's not like physical injury, where the pain forces you to stop. Instead, it's a slow erosion of clarity, focus, and self-belief. You don't even realize it's happening until one day you wake up and find that you've been living by other people's definitions of success, other people's fears, other people's limits. This is the quiet tragedy of a neglected mind. It becomes a mirror of the noise around it rather than the voice of your own truth. What happens when you neglect your physical body? Without movement, muscles weaken. Without proper nutrition, energy fades. Without rest, recovery never comes. The decline is gradual but inevitable. The same law applies to your mental state. Without feeding your mind with empowering ideas, without challenging it to think critically, without training it to focus on what matters, it will weaken. It will become vulnerable to every distraction, every passing opinion, every wave of negativity that crosses its path. And here's the part most people don't want to admit. In the absence of conscious effort, your mind doesn't remain neutral, it deteriorates. The forces shaping your thinking are constant. The news, social media, advertising, casual conversations, all of it is input. And if you're not filtering that input, you are allowing your mental environment to be dictated by chance. Over time, this creates a mental landscape filled with weeds, doubt, fear, procrastination, and self-sabotage. Neglect also leads to mental passivity. Instead of questioning, you accept. Instead of creating, you consume. Instead of directing your energy toward growth, you waste it on things that don't matter. And when opportunities come, you either don't see them or you don't believe you're capable of taking them. This is why mental neglect is so dangerous. It doesn't just slow your progress, it blinds you to the very path forward. The antidote is conscious cultivation. Just as you wouldn't leave your body untrained and expect it to perform at its best, you cannot leave your mind untrained and expect it to produce its best ideas, decisions, and actions. You must deliberately feed it with thoughts that strengthen you, expose it to knowledge that expands you, and challenge it with questions that awaken you. This is why watching or listening to something empowering every day is not a luxury, it's maintenance. It's mental nutrition. Think of your mind like a garden. If you do not plant flowers, weeds will grow by default. Weeds don't need encouragement. They thrive in neglect. The same goes for negative thoughts. They arrive uninvited, and if left unchecked, they multiply. But when you make it a habit to plant daily seeds of inspiration, wisdom, and clarity, you crowd out the weeds. Over time, the mental garden becomes a place where growth is natural and beauty is inevitable. Another danger of neglect is that it makes you reactive instead of proactive. A neglected mind is like an untuned instrument. It plays whatever note is struck by external events. Someone criticizes you and you crumble. A challenge appears and you panic. But a well-trained mind is tuned to your values and vision. It responds with intention rather than reacting with impulse. That kind of resilience doesn't happen by accident. It's the product of daily conditioning. People sometimes say, I'll start working on my mindset when things calm down. But life rarely calms down. In fact, the storms tend to come when you least expect them. If you wait until you're in the middle of chaos to strengthen your mind, it's already too late. The time to train is before the test. The time to feed your mind is before it's starving. The time to take ownership of your thinking is now. Because every day you delay, the weeds grow deeper roots. Neglect is easy because it asks nothing of you. Growth is harder because it requires intention, effort, and consistency. But the cost of neglect is always higher than the cost of discipline. Neglect will rob you of opportunities you never knew existed, keep you trapped in problems that could have been solved, and waste years of your life drifting in the wrong direction. Discipline, on the other hand, compounds over time into freedom, freedom of thought, freedom of choice, freedom to live on your terms. Make the choice. Stop leaving your mind at the mercy of chance. Stop hoping it will somehow sort itself out. Take ownership. Feed it something every day that builds you. Challenge it to think bigger. Protect it from influences that drag you down. Because if you don't, someone else will fill it for you. And the life they design for you will never match the life you were meant to live. Most people go through life on autopilot, moving from one day to the next, without ever truly being awake. They wake up at the same time, take the same route to work, talk about the same things, and repeat the same habits over and over, as if they are living inside a script that was written for them long before they knew they had a choice. This is automatic living, existing but not fully alive. And while it feels safe and familiar, it is the silent killer of potential. Automatic living is the result of unexamined routines. The human mind loves efficiency, and once it learns a pattern, it tends to repeat it without question. This is why you can drive to a familiar place without even thinking about the turns you're making. The same thing happens with your life decisions. You think you're choosing, but you're often just following a pattern you've already repeated hundreds of times. The danger is that not all patterns lead to fulfillment. Many lead to stagnation. Many keep you living a life that is smaller than what you are capable of creating. Conscious living is the opposite. It's the deliberate act of being present, questioning your patterns, and choosing your actions based on who you want to become rather than who you've been. It's not just reacting to life as it happens, it's directing it. It's waking up and asking, what do I want my life to feel like? What kind of person do I want to be today? And then making choices that align with those answers. The difference between automatic living and conscious living often comes down to awareness. In automatic living, you allow your mind to be hijacked by habit, emotion, and external influence. You run the same mental scripts without stopping to ask if they serve you. In conscious living, you pause. You notice. You observe your thoughts and actions as they happen, and you decide whether they are in harmony with your purpose or not. That pause, however small, can be the turning point of your entire life. The reason many people avoid conscious living is because it feels uncomfortable at first. When you become aware of your choices, you also become aware of the ways you've been sabotaging yourself. You see the habits that waste your time, the words that weaken your confidence, the relationships that drain you. It's tempting to slip back into the comfort of autopilot, where you don't have to think too much about these things. But ignoring the truth doesn't make it disappear. It only makes it harder to change. The beauty of conscious living is that it doesn't require you to overhaul your life overnight. It starts with simple awareness. Begin by noticing how you spend your time. Notice how you feel in certain environments and around certain people. Notice the thoughts that keep showing up in your mind. Awareness turns the invisible into the visible. Once you see it, you can choose whether to keep it or change it. Conscious living also requires intention. This means deciding in advance what you want your day to stand for and aligning your actions with that decision. If you value growth, you make time for learning. If you value health, you make choices that nourish your body. If you value connection, you give your full presence to the people you care about. Without intention, life will pull you in every direction except the one that matters most to you. One of the most powerful aspects of conscious living is that it multiplies the impact of small choices. When you're aware, even the smallest actions carry meaning because you know they are part of a bigger vision. Drinking a glass of water isn't just hydration, it's honoring your body. Reading a single page of a book isn't just passing time, it's sharpening your mind. Saying no to a distraction isn't just saving a few minutes, it's reclaiming your focus. This sense of purpose transforms the ordinary into something extraordinary. Living consciously also means questioning the beliefs you've inherited. Much of what you believe about yourself, your abilities, and what's possible for your life didn't come from you. It came from your family, your culture, your past experiences. These beliefs can be empowering, but many are limiting. When you live automatically, you accept them without question. When you live consciously, you examine them and decide which ones deserve to stay. The shift from automatic to conscious living doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you are. You stop being a passenger in your own life and become the driver. You stop waiting for opportunities to appear and start creating them. You stop chasing the life you think you're supposed to have and start building the life that feels true to you. But this shift requires vigilance. The pull of autopilot is strong because the brain always seeks the path of least resistance. If you are not intentional, you will drift back into old patterns. This is why daily reminders, whether through journaling, reflection, or listening to empowering messages, are so important. They keep you awake. They keep you from falling back asleep at the wheel. Conscious living is about alignment. It's aligning your thoughts, words, and actions with the life you truly want. It's about making sure that the way you spend your days reflects the values you claim to hold. Because in the end, your life is not determined by what you say you want, it's determined by what you choose to do moment by moment. And if you choose to live with awareness, to question your patterns, to direct your energy toward what matters most, you will not just live, you will thrive. You will find that each day, no matter how ordinary it seems, carries the power to move you closer to the life you were always meant to live. The power of consistency is often misunderstood. People think of it as repetition for its own sake. But in truth, it is a force that shapes not only your life, but the lives of everyone you touch. The actions you take regularly, the habits you uphold, the energy you bring into the world, these do not exist in isolation. They create ripples, and those ripples extend far beyond what you can see. When you show up for something every day, even in small ways, you build momentum. That momentum changes you, but it also influences the people around you. Think of a stone dropped into water. The impact starts in one place, but the waves travel outward, touching shores you didn't even know were there. This is what happens when you live with consistency. Your discipline becomes an example. Your energy becomes contagious. Without saying a word, you give permission for others to rise to a higher standard. Consistency also builds trust, not just in others' eyes, but in your own. Every time you follow through on what you said you would do, you prove to yourself that you are reliable. That self-trust is priceless because it becomes the foundation for bigger dreams. Without it, you hesitate, you doubt, you stop yourself before you begin. But with it, you start to see that no goal is too far as long as you are willing to move toward it, day after day. Many people underestimate the compounding effect of small, repeated actions. They think, one workout doesn't matter, one conversation won't change anything, one page in a book isn't enough. But consistency multiplies the value of those small efforts until they become unstoppable. A single drop of water doesn't carve a stone, but countless drops, falling day after day, will shape it completely. That's how lives are transformed, not through grand, rare efforts, but through ordinary actions done relentlessly. The ripple effect is especially powerful because it works silently. You may not see the impact of your consistency immediately. In fact, it's common to feel like nothing is happening at all in the beginning. But while you're busy questioning yourself, your actions are influencing others in ways you may never know. Someone might see your dedication and decide to commit to their own goal. Someone might witness your patience and learn to be kinder with themselves. Even your presence, simply showing up when you say you will, can inspire trust in those who have never had someone reliable in their lives. Consistency also creates stability in an unpredictable world. People are drawn to those who are steady, who keep showing up no matter what happens. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present. In moments of uncertainty, your consistency becomes an anchor for others. They know they can count on you, and that trust deepens every relationship you have. But the most profound ripples are often internal. Consistency rewires your mind. It teaches you that progress is not a matter of chance, but of choice. It shows you that you have more control over your life than you once believed. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen the part of you that believes you are capable. That belief is powerful because it begins to color every decision you make. You start to aim higher, speak bolder, and live with a sense of certainty that others can feel. It's important to understand that the ripple effect works both ways. Consistency in destructive habits will spread just as surely as consistency in empowering ones. If you show up daily with negativity, if you consistently avoid responsibility, if you habitually give less than your best, that energy will influence others as well. The people around you, especially those who look up to you, are learning from what you do repeatedly, not from what you do occasionally. This is why being intentional about your consistency matters. It's not enough to simply keep doing something. You must ensure that what you are doing is worth repeating. Ask yourself, if someone I care about were to adopt my daily habits, would it improve their life or diminish it? This question can be a compass guiding you toward consistency that lifts both you and others higher. Over time, the ripple effect of your consistent actions becomes your legacy. Long after specific moments are forgotten, people will remember the feeling of your presence, the example you set, and the standard you upheld. You may never know how far your influence travels, but rest assured, it does not stop at the boundaries of your own life. The truth is, change on a global scale rarely starts with massive events. More often, it begins with individuals who make a quiet, unwavering commitment to something they believe in. A teacher who shows up for their students every single day. A parent who keeps their word. An artist who keeps creating even when no one is watching. These ripples spread, inspiring others to find their own version of consistency, and the cycle continues. When you understand this, you stop underestimating your daily actions. You see that what you do today is not just about you, it's about every life your presence touches, directly or indirectly. You recognize that each consistent act is a seed, and that one day, somewhere, it will grow into something far greater than you imagined. The question becomes simple. What ripples will you create? What will you show up for? Again and again, not because it's easy, but because it matters. Because when you choose with intention and follow through with consistency, you don't just change your life, you set waves in motion that can change the world. There is a strange thing that happens when you try to change your life. The moment you decide to do something new, something better, something that requires you to grow, a force seems to rise up inside you to pull you back. It whispers, "You don't need this. It's too hard. You're not ready. Maybe later." It tells you that staying the same is safer, that trying is pointless, that comfort is better than the unknown. This is inner resistance, and it is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It is proof that you are stepping into one that matters. Inner resistance exists because your mind is built to protect you. It is designed to keep you alive, and it does this by clinging to the familiar. Anything unfamiliar, even if it's good for you, is perceived as a threat. The brain sees change as danger because it disrupts established patterns, and those patterns are what it has relied on to keep you functioning up until now. So, when you try to form a new habit, pursue a goal, or break a limiting belief, you're essentially asking your mind to step into uncertainty. And uncertainty feels like risk. This is why you can feel so much motivation at the start of a new goal and yet suddenly lose momentum days or weeks later. At first, your mind is curious. It enjoys novelty. But the moment the work becomes uncomfortable, resistance begins to fight back. It shows up as procrastination, as excuses, as fatigue, as self-doubt. It convinces you that skipping just one day doesn't matter, that maybe you should wait until life is easier, that this dream isn't really that important. If you listen, you stop. And if you stop long enough, the old patterns take over again. Understanding this is crucial, because when resistance appears, many people assume it means they are not meant to continue. They take the discomfort as a warning to turn back. But in reality, resistance is not a stop sign. It is a signal that you are entering new territory. And the only way to weaken it is to move forward despite it. The more you act in the face of resistance, the less power it has over you. The problem is, resistance can be incredibly convincing. It doesn't always sound like fear. Sometimes it sounds like reason, like practicality, like logic. It will tell you to wait for the right time. It will tell you to start small tomorrow. It will even disguise itself as humility, making you feel selfish for wanting more. This is why you must learn to recognize it, not by its words, but by its effect. If something consistently pulls you away from actions you know will improve your life, it is resistance. The truth about resistance is that it never fully disappears. No matter how much you grow, there will always be another edge, another challenge that triggers it. The goal is not to eliminate resistance, but to master the art of moving with it present. To see it not as a wall, but as a weight you can carry while still walking forward. Every time you do, you grow stronger. There's another truth. Resistance often flares up the most right before a breakthrough. When you are close to shifting an old belief, breaking a destructive habit, or reaching a new level of skill, resistance can intensify. It does this because the old version of you is about to lose control, and the mind clings hardest to what it knows in those final moments. This is when you must push the hardest, because beyond that point is freedom. The best way to deal with resistance is to expect it. When you begin something new, assume that at some point you will feel the urge to quit. Assume you will hear those familiar whispers telling you it's pointless. And when they come, don't negotiate with them. Don't debate. Act. Move forward without waiting for permission from your feelings. Action weakens resistance faster than anything else. Another powerful approach is to lower the threshold for action. Resistance thrives on making things feel overwhelming. If you break your goal into small, almost laughably easy steps, it becomes harder for resistance to justify stopping you. You may not feel ready to write a chapter, but you can write a paragraph. You may not feel ready to run 5 miles, but you can put on your shoes and walk for 10 minutes. The key is to keep moving, no matter how small the steps. It's also important to remember that resistance is not personal. It's not a sign of weakness or lack of worth. Every human being experiences it, from beginners to masters. What separates those who succeed from those who stay stuck is not the absence of resistance. It's the decision to move forward in spite of it. Over time, something interesting happens. When you repeatedly face resistance and keep going, it begins to change shape. It stops feeling like an enemy and starts feeling like a companion, a sign that you are alive, growing, and refusing to settle. You start to associate resistance not with fear, but with progress. And that changes everything. The next time you feel it, that heaviness, that hesitation, that voice urging you to stop, pause and recognize it for what it is. It is the boundary between who you are and who you could be. And crossing it again and again is how you become that person. To live as if you already are the person you want to become is one of the most powerful keys to transformation. It is not about pretending or faking. It is about embodying the qualities, the mindset, the actions of the future self right now. Because the truth is, the line between who you are and who you want to be is often smaller than you think. The gap exists mostly in your mind, created by doubt, fear, and the stories you tell yourself about what is possible. When you live as if you are already that person, you begin to bridge that gap in very real ways. Imagine for a moment a painter standing before a blank canvas. Before the brush touches the surface, the painter already holds the image of the final piece in their mind. They move with confidence because they know who they are in that moment. A creator, an artist, someone who brings life to blank spaces. If the painter hesitated, unsure if they were truly an artist, the work would falter before it began. But by living as if they already are the artist, they allow the vision to flow through them, shaping every stroke. This principle applies to your life. If you want to be confident, act confidently. If you want to be disciplined, live with discipline. If you want to be kind, behave kindly. The external world will respond to the energy you put out, but more importantly, your internal world will begin to align with your actions. The brain is not a passive observer. It learns from what you do. When you step into the identity of your future self, even before everything feels perfect, you signal to your mind that change is not only possible, it's happening. Living as if also rewires your expectations. When you expect to succeed, your mind looks for evidence to support that belief. When you behave as though you are already successful, you make decisions that support success instead of sabotage. You begin to notice opportunities that were invisible before because your perspective has shifted. This shift is not magic. It is the natural consequence of changing the story you live by. There's a famous phrase, fake it till you make it. But this often gets misunderstood as shallow or insincere. The deeper truth is that you are not faking anything. You are practicing a new way of being until it becomes real. Like a muscle that grows stronger with use, your identity strengthens with practice. Each action taken from this future self perspective is a rep, a training session that builds the new you. This approach is especially important when you face doubt or fear. It is easy to wait until you feel ready or worthy, but that moment may never come if you let emotion dictate your actions. Instead, by choosing to live as if you are already that person, you create a powerful feedback loop. Your behavior changes your feelings, and your feelings reinforce your behavior, creating a cycle of growth that propels you forward. Living as if also aligns your environment with your aspirations. When you carry yourself as someone who is capable and worthy, you naturally attract situations and people that reflect that reality. Your confidence draws others in, your discipline inspires respect, your kindness builds connection. This is not about arrogance or entitlement. It is about living authentically in a way that matches your highest potential. Living as if does not mean ignoring your current reality. It means acknowledging where you are, but refusing to be defined by it. It means honoring your progress while keeping your eyes on the horizon. The future self you embody is not a distant fantasy. It is a seed within you waiting to grow. Your actions water that seed every day. There is also an element of trust involved. Trust that by stepping into this new identity, you are not losing yourself, but discovering a deeper truth. Trust that the discomfort of growth is temporary, and on the other side lies freedom. Trust that you are worthy of the life you dream of, not because you have earned it yet, but because you already deserve it. Living as if transforms how you face challenges. Instead of shrinking in the face of obstacles, you meet them with the resilience and grace of the person you are becoming. Your future self doesn't see failure as a dead end, but as a lesson, a necessary step on the path. This mindset changes the meaning of every experience, turning setbacks into stepping stones. The only thing standing between you and the life you want is the identity you carry. When you live as if you already are that person, you align your mind, body, and soul with the possibilities ahead. You stop waiting for permission from the world, from others, or even from yourself, and you begin to create. Choose today to live as if. Walk, talk, think, and act in a way that honors your future self. Let your behavior be the proof that you are already becoming who you dream to be. In doing so, you unleash a force that no obstacle can stop and begin the most profound journey of all. The journey of becoming fully, authentically you. Every moment you spend watching, listening, and feeding your mind is a moment invested in the life you are becoming. Transformation is not a sudden leap, but a series of small, consistent choices that build upon each other, shifting your thoughts, overcoming resistance, living consciously, and embodying your future self before it fully arrives. Your mind is always listening, quietly absorbing the seeds you plant, shaping your reality in ways both seen and unseen. Neglecting this process allows doubt, fear, and old patterns to grow unchecked, but embracing it awakens a powerful force within you, a force that can move mountains, create ripples far beyond your own life, and transform obstacles into opportunities. Inner resistance is not your enemy. It is the signpost that marks where growth is waiting. By choosing to live deliberately, to show up day after day with intention and courage, you reclaim your power and rewrite the story you tell yourself. Living as if you already are the person you want to become is not pretending. It is the most authentic way to step into your truth and align your actions with your highest potential. The journey will not always be easy, but it will be real, meaningful, and yours. Watch this every day, not as a passive observer, but as an active participant in your own transformation. Let these words remind you that you hold the pen to your life's story. The ripples you create today will shape the shorelines of your future. And in the simple, consistent choice to move forward, you become unstoppable. Your time is now. Start where you are with what you have and live fully as the person you were always meant to be.